Reddit, what's the best case you can make against something you firmly believe? Serious. I am for euthanasia if it is properly regulated, but ever since I was accepted into medical school I realized that I do not think I could ever perform this. It goes against everything I went into medicine to do. And then you'll do a palliative care rotation in your 3rd or 4th year and see people in ridiculous amounts of pain and suffering that we just can't do much about. It's not pretty. I think anyone in hospice care, which is defined as no longer seeking curative therapy with a prognosis of less than 6 months to live, should be given the option of physician-assisted suicide. I'm a cynic. I think people are genuinely self-serving. I don't think they're bad. I just don't think they have a lot of interest in helping one another unless it benefits them in some way. Whenever I see random acts of kindness or true selflessness, it makes me cry and want to be a better person. I consider myself to be an atheist by default. That is, I never thought I shall now be an atheist. It just happened by accident. But when I work backwards through the creation of the universe, I get to the point just before the Big Bang and I'm stumped. It's almost like science can map out everything that happened that led us to where we are in the universe now, starting from one sliver of a second after the Big Bang started. But what came before that just makes me scratch my head. I heard it explained nicely a while ago where you think that nothing came before the Big Bang. But nothing still requires a presence of something to qualify it. So asking the questions what came before the Big Bang is pretty much an unanswerable question, which makes me feel like answering that some kind of divine presence started it is just as good an answer as anything else. I shall now wait for someone much smarter than me to correct me. All the stupid, uninformed people get just as much voting power as the intelligent, knowledgeable people, but there are more of them. Democracy doesn't get the best person for the job, it just gets the person most capable of getting other schmucks to vote for them. I support democracy and universal suffrage. It is not, however, without fault. The only real qualification for public office is votes, and such. The people who inevitably rise to power are not the ones most apt to rule, but instead, the ones most capable of garnering the support necessary. The system favors those who can talk a big game over those who can play a big game. The best argument against democracy is a 5-minute conversation with the average voter. Winston Churchill. Reincarnation. Before 1991 I didn't exist. I was in a state of not existing. Then I was born in 1991. I began to exist. If I die tomorrow, I'll go from existing back to not existing, which is what I did previous to 1991. So is it far-fetched to assume I can go from a state of not existing back to existing again, without prior knowledge that I existed, being a completely different person? I suppose the counter to that would be life after death, and that's a whole other argument. Alright, I'm a Christian. I firmly believe God is real. However, the Bible is a 2,000-year-old document that has been translated, edited and generally gutted across the years. To say that the King James Bible is unreliable is an understatement. If Christians' very frame of reference really has no legs to stand on, it might be easy to say that they're all wrong. And that's not even getting into the shady moral areas many organized institutions are involved in. Then they wonder why public perception of Christianity might be less than flattering. Not to mention how they pick and choose certain sins to be worse than others. Ergo an alcoholic is forgiven his trespasses while gays are shamed and cast out from the church. Additionally, they think that their religion should be guiding their politics when this has never worked out well before. All these factors combined may make Christians all look like a joke. Regardless, I still identify as Christian. I have my reasons, but I'm not sure if it's appropriate to discuss them in this thread. While I'm 100% for legalization, driving high can be incredibly dangerous. For every stoner who says they drive better high, there's somebody who drinks and drives and believes the same thing. Your mental state shouldn't be impaired whatsoever while you're operating a vehicle. This combined with the fact that there's no reliable field test to determine if you're as high would make it very difficult to keep high drivers off the road. An officer couldn't take you to a station and subject you to a urine test due only to suspicion. So it's basically your word against theirs. What if God designed life to evolve? That's actually a thing. It's called theistic evolution. It's just a game. I mean, it is. Whatever your sport is just a game played for fun. But as soon as you get competitive it becomes so much more than that. My football team is just so important to me. I think about it in football all the freaking time and it's all consuming. But then again, does it really matter if we lose, as it is just a game? Yes it does. The Achilles' heel argument against libertarianism, of which I am a firm advocate, is environmentalism. Libertarianism states that you should be able to do whatever you want, provided that doing so doesn't infringe on another person's liberties. It also believes that the role of the government is to be reduced to only enforcing laws that secure the first premise. When someone destroys the environment, making it toxic to breathe the surrounding air or drink the groundwater, they are affecting another person's right to life health. Thus, it is imperative for the government to make and enforce laws to prevent such matters. However, the scope of environmental dangers are profound. Without any clear restriction, the government would be able to have a significant intrusion in one's life if anything that affects the environment can justify it to be within its jurisdiction. Laws that prevent the amount of miles you can drive in a gas-powered vehicle. Laws that restrict the amount of plastic products you can buy in a year. Or even laws that make illegal effective medicines that leave trace toxins in depository rivers when flushed down the toilet all seem like the laws of a highly intrusive Big Brother government. However, through the lens of environmentalism, they are all reasonable outcomes even in a libertarian's world. I believe homosexuality is not a choice. The argument that natural selection would have stopped the gay gene from being passed on is one that I take seriously though. Existence. We all experience it. We can smell it, hear it, type on Reddit within it. But can you prove it actually happens? Does anything outside of our perceptions actually happen? What if we are nothing but energy, manifesting itself into thoughts, senses, emotions, the universe, for just a short period of time? What if the universe only exists because you do? No matter what, you cannot prove existence exists outside of your own head. Descartes wrestled with this problem and came up with I think therefore I am, but he realized that everything else, other than his own existence, was inference based. I am a staunch supporter of gun rights and vehemently oppose gun control. An argument I frequently use is why make them illegal if the criminals are going to get them anyway? The counter argument I can never really respond to is why make murder illegal if murderers are going to do it anyway? Well, I hate drinking, smoking, drugs, and I believe we would be better off if they did not exist in the first place, although I suppose something else would take their place. The best argument in favor of their existence beyond medical use is that they do serve as an alternative way of breaking certain social barriers without having to actually put in the effort. They can also serve a recreational purpose for some, to help them relax, take their mind off things, etc. I still think there are much better tools available to us for those activities, but that is why I am against them in the first place. Regarding abortion, it all depends on your definition of human life. If you believe life, as an independent human, begins at conception, how can you possibly support abortion? Democratic politicians often say that they believe life begins at conception but that they believe women should have the choice. What the frick? That's murder. Why should even the most extreme circumstances justify that? Why does being ARPed mean you can kill another human being for your own quality of life, or even its own? Life is sacred, and nobody should be denied it without consent even if it probably won't have a good one. If not, why stop there? Why not euthanize the homeless or the mentally ill? Personally, I don't consider a fetus to be its own person until birth. But if I defined an unborn child as a person, I'm a rather staunch atheist, living in Oklahoma of all places. How does not believing in a god and opening yourself up to the possibility of vast, and caring, meaningless universe help you? What do you gain? How is your life made easier by existentialist dread and permanent outsider status because you aren't really a church person? Wouldn't life be so much easier if you could just believe? All my life, I've been a strong believer in waiting to have intercourse until after marriage. I have done my part by writing many papers on the issue, making speeches about it, and finally getting married before having intercourse myself. I guess the strongest argument against waiting is legality versus commitment. I married a Catholic, so we ran into this issue a lot. To Catholics, the marriage isn't official unless it's either done by a priest in a Catholic church, or has specific permissions to be done elsewhere. We had to endure the process of getting permission to have it done at my church, but the whole thing felt hokey to me. If we decided one day to be married, grabbed a witness or two, and had a non-legally binding ceremony, how married would we be? What if we didn't get married legally, had some kids, then decided to get it done legally? Would those first kids be considered bastards? Also, now that I've had intercourse, it seems less like a big deal somehow. I get done, then just continue on with my day as if nothing happened. Isn't intercourse supposed to be this explosive, eye-opening thing? Would it really be so bad to have multiple partners if it feels that way? In contrast to all the sexually liberated and liberal people in the world with every kind of preference, obsession and kink, I feel that those who condemn pre-marital intercourse and insist on abstinence and put virginity on an impossible pedestal have fetishized the act of intercourse above everyone else. God really does exist. He just got bored with Earth a long time ago. As a Christian, I can say that the best argument against me is the most obvious. Where's the proof? Science can explain just about dang near everything, and what it can't explain is certainly on the scientific community's to-do list. Also, the Bible, I mean, it's a gazillion, roughly years old, and vague as all get out in a lot of places. How do you decide what's literal or metaphorical? History or poetry? A bunch of dudes at a summit? Aren't humans fallible? Man, I could go on for days. Santorum was a serious contender for a presidential nomination. That is my best argument against democracy. Xbox has Halo. I consider myself a libertarian. I believe in the legalization of drugs, prostitution, gambling, same-sex marriage, and a government that only interferes in day-to-day in cases of serious crimes. The best case I can make against libertarianism is that it is tied fairly strongly to laissez-faire capitalism. I am a capitalist, but I consider the existing wealth gap in the world as it exists right now to be highly unfair. Many rich people are so wealthy because they were born into rich families, while many poor people have basically no chance to ever work themselves up. Therefore, I support universal health care, free education, and a government securing that incomes do not drift apart too much. Of course, for that you need to collect some taxes. I generally am more of a Keynesian than a laissez-faire proponent. You have been visited by the cook dog. Comment: without food there is no paradise, so that you never burn the stakes. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day, you magnificent people.